So, in society now, there is a huge epidemic of young men and just men in general who think they're depressed. There's a huge number of young men that, you know, are lacking drive, they're lacking motivation, they're lacking discipline. Their days are monotonous. All they do is wake up every single day at 6, 7 a.m., get dressed, get in their car, drive to work or take the train to work, and work all day for someone who they hate, for a business that they have no passion in whatsoever, you know, just to get a paycheck, to finish their work at the end of the day, complain about how shit it was, maybe go to the gym if they're just a little bit locked in, and then go home, watch YouTube, watch TV, eat, do whatever, you know, and then repeat that for 5 days of the week, and then go to wait until the weekend, go out on Friday, Saturday, get so drunk, be happy when they're drunk because alcohol makes you, I think it like increases your dopamine or something like that. I'm not a scientist. Be super happy when they're drunk, spend all the money that they've just made in the previous week, and then just continue to go into that loop, the endless loop of pain, momentary happiness until it gets to Sunday, and then they start to get depressed again. And especially now, because it's the summer, right? But now what a lot of young men are probably going to be in the situation of is the fact of the matter is that now that the summer is done, so even little things like, the hot weather, and even little things like the sun that, even if you're living a miserable life right now, that makes you happy. What a lot of men are about to find is that, as the summer ends, they're going to feel like that depression gets a little bit worse. Okay, like I was out in Wales, I was visiting one of my one-to-one students, one of my managers, and I was with my mentor, and we were out in Wales. We visited Wales. It was the bank holiday, and genuinely, right, the amount of people that I saw on a bank holiday, just out there drinking, and don't get it twisted, they were having a great time and they were enjoying, like I advocate for. I'm a big advocate of enjoying life. I'm a big advocate of sometimes getting drunk with your friends, sometimes enjoying days, weeks off, or a week off with your friends. Okay, the amount of people that I just saw, that you could just tell that, listen, they're just so happy because they don't have to work, but as soon as Tuesday hits, as soon as they have to go back to work, reality kicks in again. They're gonna be all hungover and they're gonna be like, fuck. Do you know what I mean? So right now, there's a huge epidemic of male sort of loneliness, and there's a huge epidemic of young men that just feel sort of stuck. They don't really know what to do. They know that what they're doing isn't what they truly want to be doing, and they know they want more for themselves. And instead of actually confronting that, and instead of actually, attacking that head on, they just continue to, I guess, drown themselves in, waiting for the weekend and, just choosing the short term easy decision instead of making the long term hard decision, right? And I'm making this video to tell you guys that genuinely, in life right now, the way your life looks like in a few years is all, no, the way your life looks like in 10 to 20 years is all based on the decisions you make right now. There's two decisions that you can make, right? You can make the easy decision that's going to be easy in the short term. That's going to be easy in the short term. But in 10, 20 years from now, you're going to regret it and you're going to feel like shit. Or you can make the hard decision that's going to be like, oh, it's going to hurt like crazy in the short term. But 10, 20 years down the line, your life is going to be like, you're going to be so happy you made that decision, right? And I could use myself as this analogy. When I was working my corporate job as, a 19-year-old working for a big corporate business with a comfy salary, okay, the easy decision was to continue working my job, or when I got fired, just go find another job exactly like that, which I could have easily done, and just, continue to be in that little rat race, continue to be working for a job, looking and, climbing up the corporate ladder, looking at people that are, 10, 20 years above me that, yeah, they may make 100 grand a year, but their life sucks. They have a miserable relationship. They barely have fun. And, they're just miserable. The short term decision would have been to stay in that comfortable, easy life and, make that easy decision of just working that job for the rest of my life and, climbing up that corporate ladder, having that sort of sense of, I guess, comfortability and, not really having to make any major decision. And the long term decision, the harder term decision, that would have been harder in the short term, but easy, but made it easier for me and the life that I wanted to live in the long term, was the decision that I made, which was not finding another job after I got fired and going all in on something like online sales and making money online, which I knew that in the short term it would hurt and I wouldn't be making anywhere near as much money as I was making in my corporate job. But I know that, I knew that within a couple months, within a couple years, the money that I'd be making compared to the money that I'd be making as a corporate, 9 to 5 person working, in London, the difference would have been insane. Do you know what I mean? So that's a prime example right there of the short decision being easier, me staying in that job and, me taking the easier route, but then 20 years down the line, me being unhappy and losing my zest for life and just continuing to get, cocked by a boss, just continuing to work like a slave. Or the hard decision, which was one that I took, which was not finding another job, taking the hit, being uncomfortable, but now being in the stage where I'm on 10 grand for the month already as a fucking 20-year-old man. I make more money than probably my boss made per month. I make more money than all of the other people that I used to work with. And I know for a fact that now I'm never going to struggle to make money again because I've been able to pick up something like sales. Notice how, depending on the decision that I made, a couple months, a couple years down the line, my life would have looked completely different depending on the decision I made. If I'd have chose the comfortable decision, yes, it would have been comfortable, but I would have still been in that rut. I would have probably been out like those people on New Year's on the bank holiday, drinking my life away, not actually just living for the moment and not actually, having anything to, I guess, to look forward to other than, just the bank holiday. I would have probably ended up like them. Whereas now, because I chose that harder decision, now my life looks like freedom. My life looks like bliss. It's a Tuesday morning right now. I'm sitting here recording YouTube videos, educating you guys, getting on calls with my students, getting on calls with my clients. My life is great. I make good money. I'm blessed. And what this all comes down to is the reason why most men and the reason why a lot of men feel lonely nowadays is because they're making short-term decisions and they're sacrificing their long-term success. They're sacrificing their long-term success, and therefore the short-term comfortability is sucking all of the zest out of them. It's sucking that manly nature and that manly zest that we should have for life to just go and conquer. If we think back to our ancestors, they used to wake up every single day, go and conquer life, and they used to have a great time doing it. Okay, because they weren't choosing these little short-term gratifications. They were actually living, and they had a purpose. They were living life on story mode. So the reason why a lot of you young men right now watching this video, you might feel lost, is because you need to stop choosing that short-term decision. That's going to be easy for you now, but it's going to make it harder for you in the future. Okay? You need to genuinely, it sounds a bit fucked, but you genuinely just need to get into the habit of putting yourself into uncomfortable situations that are going to allow your future self, yourself in a year from now or in a couple months from now, to look back and be like, wow, I'm so happy we did this. I'm so happy you stuck strong. Do you know what I mean? So genuinely, if you are suffering with, loneliness, if you're in that rut and you just don't like the way life is looking like right now, one thing you can look at is, what decisions am I making now? Are they serving the short term me, or are they going to serve the long term me? And whatever one you come down to, make sure, and that it will tell you exactly why your life looks like that. And from now on, make sure that you make decisions that benefit the long term you.